Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be installing these Jessem Tool Company clear cut table saw stock guides. These things are awesome. They have one-way rollers so they prevent kickback. They are angled in at I believe about 5 degrees to the table saw fence so that as you move the material, it sucks it into the fence. And these are spring-loaded. That's going to put downward pressure on your table, giving you perfect cuts every time. Don't believe me? Well, let's check this thing out. I'm going to show you how to install it. I'm going to make some cuts with it, and we're going to show you how awesome this thing is. Can it be the best table saw accessory? I don't know. Let's find out. Super simple to do, super simple to set up, and I've been waiting for these for a long time, and unfortunately, the 2 videos that I have previously recorded and are waiting to be edited, I really could have used these. They came in a little bit too late. I just got these and I was just able to make the video now. This video is sponsored by TSO Products. You know, I have a link and an affiliation with TSO, so please check the description. I will have this linked and all my other TSO products linked in there for my affiliate program. This is from the Jessem Tool Company, but it is sold by TSO Products, so you can get it from them. So they have told me they have plenty of stock in these, so if it's something that you need, it's something that you think that you see in this video is going to be really cool and help you out on your table saw, then this is definitely for you. All right, so let's get started installing this and let's run some cuts on it and see if it's really worth all the hype. Okay, so first thing we're going to do so that you can get a better understanding of why I need to mount this in a specific way because of the fence that I have on this table saw, I'm going to raise up the blade all the way so I can take this blade guard off. This way you can actually see what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to remove that really quick. I'm going to get this hose out of the way also because if I don't move it, it's just going to be hanging out right in front of where we want to be working. Now I'm going to lower the blade down all the way because there's no reason for me to have it in the up position right now for this because we're not making it cut just yet. So this is the rail that this Jessem clear stock guide system comes with. Now, depending on whether or not you care about your table saw fence, which most people don't, and you can just mount this directly on top of your fence and you can actually pre-drill and they give you self-tapping screws and you can screw it right into the metal fence. And then you can take your stock guides and you can place them on there and tighten them up and position them where you need. So in order to combat that, what I've done is rip a piece of 3/4 inch material. You can use pine, you can use plywood, whatever you got on hand. I also don't really want to drill into the fence itself. So what I'm going to do is bring this back here, lock it in place, and get it back out of the way. Take it off of the rail, just like that. What I'm going to do is add a 3/4 inch piece of material, ripped it to the width of the fence. I'm going to position this exactly where I need it to be, just like that. And then I'm going to hold it in place by pre-drilling 30mm holes and using these heavy-duty magnets from Magswitch. I'm going to put those, one in the front, one in the back, and when you turn these, it will lock this whole thing, the whole system will be locked to the fence, and then when I'm not using it, I'll switch the magnets off, and I'll be able to remove the whole assembly if I ever need to. While I had it on the rip fence, I determined the positioning from the front to the back of where I want it, and I'm just going to make a little line right there, and that's going to be my reference line for where I need to position this back later on. Now, I'm going to take my ruler, and this is 68mm wide, so half of 68 is 34. So what I'll do is just make a mark at 34mm, which is right here. Now this doesn't have to be exact, however, I like to be exact. You want to keep it, doesn't have to be exactly in the center. When I say it doesn't have to be exact, I mean it doesn't have to be completely centered. It could be off here, it could be off here, it doesn't matter. As long as you have it close enough to the fence where the arms are going to reach over and come down onto the table saw to provide you with the pressure, downward pressure and inward pressure against the fence that you need, then you got it right. Now, I've seen a lot of people install these and go like this and go like this and get it centered. You don't have to do that because once you make your center mark on your board, this track, you may not be able to pick it up on camera, but if you look down the center, it has a center line. So they've done the work for you. So all you have to do is position it where you want, and once you have it where you want, you can just line up your center marks. I put it on my reference marks, and I have it in place, and now I center it over here, front, and the back. with my center lines. Now I'm dead even exactly where I need to be. Next thing I'm going to do is pre-drill for the self-tapping screws that they give you. They don't have a point on them, so you do have to pre-drill. So I'm just going to get a drill, and they provide you with the bit. So I'm going to use this bit. This is the exact size that you need to get these in there. Also provides you with the tool for the torque screws. First, I'm going to try to install these screws that they gave. They don't have a point on them, so I'm going to pre-drill first. And to keep it in line, what I'll do is I'll start on this end and I will just pre-drill the first one, and then I'll secure it in place, and then I'll keep it slightly loose. This way I can move this back and forth as I need to. I'll try to get this in the center as best as possible. You can use a VIX bit or a self-centering bit for this. The provided hex head screw, which if you pre-drill, it will go into the wood because it is threaded and pre-drilled. And right there, I'm going to just snug it up so that I can come down to this end and make sure that I am still in line. Now I'll go ahead and come back with these 1/2 inch screws that'll just drop in there and secure it all the way. This is just giving you a little bit extra, holding power. And I'm not going to over torque it either. Just going to feather it until it drops into the slot. And you can see how that's biting down in there, and we're making this more secure. Take my pencil, position the magnet at this end right here, and kind of just center it by eye. And what I'll do is I'll just trace around it on both sides like this. And then what I'll do is I will use my center line reference here just to bring that out. This way I know where I'm going to position both of these on the board. So this way I know also where to position my drill bit, which will be somewhere right in the center there. Okay, now we need a 30mm drill bit, a sacrificial board underneath so that I am not going to drill into my tabletop. Normally you would chuck up a Forstner bit into a drill press, but you really don't have to, as long as you know how to do it and secure it. I'm going to put this scrap on there not only to prevent damaging my bench, but I'm also going to prevent blowout on the other side. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of board, scrap board, equal thickness to place over here so that it's nice and level. First thing I'm going to do is lock it in place. That's one side. Secured in 2 locations, I won't get any twisting. Okay, here we go. Now all we need to do is position the tip, the brad point of the Forstner bit directly into the center of where we want to drill. Now we're just going to flip this around. You can see we are perfectly through, and these will drop straight in there with just a little bit of resistance, and that's what you want. You want it to be nice and tight, so this way you can screw it to the sides. It will never come out, and it won't wiggle around on you when it's installed on the fence. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. This is the front that I marked with an F. Now we're going to position this right here, table saw on the fence, and I'm going to line it up, and then I'm going to drop in my Magswitch magnets on both ends. I'm not going to screw them in yet because the first thing I want to do is to actually get it in place of where I want this thing. So I'm going to put it in place. I got it lined up right here. Now I'm going to lock this one. It's not going to move. Now I can move this at the back to where I need it. This will be a crucial measurement here. From here to the edge of the board, I have 46mm. So now, and I'll put it on the back over here at the edge, 46. So I'm dead on target right there. So now I'm taking these 1-inch cabinet screws. They have a washer head on them, which is going to be great to drop in here and actually secure the magnets. What it's going to do is give you added stability as you use the stock guides. Okay, learn here from my mistake. There's something that I forgot to do, and that was to put the stock guides on first before I screwed down the magnet. Not a problem. Just run the screws out real fast, unswitch it, pull out the magnet, and now we can slide stock guides into the rear. So what you do is first loosen these thumb screws. It has this T-bar on the bottom, and that goes right into that T-slot. So just position it perfectly in there, and slide this one all the way back to pretty much your desired location, and then tighten up those thumb screws. Take your next stock guide, you get two of them. Loosen up the thumb wheels. Make sure you can easily slide it in place. And this one I'm going to position somewhere about here. Now we're going to reposition these probably after I set the angle, just so we're, kind of in the ballpark. Then you can just position your magnet back in place where you had it, lock it down, and reinstall those screws. Now, if you remember what I said, before you screw this in place, slide those in, and then you can screw this back into the board. This way you don't have to take that extra step that I did. Basically what they want you to do before you get started even using these things, you gotta finish the setup, which is super simple here. First thing I'm gonna do is, if you loosen this up, what happens is, it basically just will flop down like 90 degrees. You need this to sit, according to the instructions, you need it to sit about 30 degrees to the table. And I'm gonna show you a quick way to get it to 30 degrees, a real easy way where you don't need any crazy gauges or anything like that. Okay guys, this trick is super simple. All you wanna do is take your miter saw and position it to 30 degrees. So I'm gonna set that to 30 degrees, lock it in place. There is your perfect 30-degree gauge block. Here we are, let's see how we did it. This is the gauge block. Put it on there, and you can see that we're not really, perfectly at 30 degrees. So what we can do to get it to that 30 degrees is we can actually take these screws out, move this up, and then you just put these back into the pre-threaded locations. And tighten these back up. Okay, now we have everything tight, and now we can start to set this up to make a cut. I'll show you how easy it is to set up. First thing you need to do is, you can see that there's these rubber wheels in there. Now these are one-way wheels. They only let you push the material through this way. The way it works is, if you loosen this up, you can lift these, you can push them out of the way. If you're not using them, tighten them up, leave them in place. And if you are using them, you bring them out. And to get them to the material, what you do is, there's not the wheel itself, but the actual piece of aluminum here, or steel, or whatever this is made of on the end. You want to bump that right down and drop it onto your material. What that does is give you the perfect amount of tension for when you're pushing it underneath the wheel as you're rolling it through. It gives you downward pressure and the side pressure. So I'm going to lift a little bit so I can slide that piece out of the way. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to loosen this up. And this is how easy this is to set up, guys. Put it right on there, just like that. Make sure it's touching. Lock it down, and then you can pull your piece out. So no trick photography here or anything. I have my piece of melamine. This is 3/4. I have it set to the right height. I'm going to position it on an angle here so that you can see what's happening is, now this is extreme. No one would ever put it this far away from the fence like this. You would be close to the fence like this, maybe off a little bit. I'm going to do it so you can see it. Push it, and I'm going to line up with the miter slot, and I'm going to push it straight. And you can actually see it already starting to pull it in. Look at how that works. It's keeping it against it. I'm engaged in the other wheel. I'm pushing straight ahead, and it's completely flat against this fence. What happens is, with the sheet goods, a lot of times, is you'll try to jam it along here, and as you're standing way back and you have this long piece and you're trying to get it against the fence, you're pushing from out here, and you'll get it there. By the time you get to the blade, usually what happens is you're pushing from here and you're trying to balance this and you're off a little bit. What this will do is it will bring it right into the fence for you so that you don't have to worry. And now look, it basically is like hands-free operation, because it's grabbing at the front and the back, and it's keeping it all the way lined up with that fence. And the tension, the downward pressure, is going to ensure that I'm cutting at 90 degrees here, as long as I have my blade at 90 degrees, that I'm cutting this 90 degrees as well. Because a lot of times, when you're passing these sheet goods through, I see a lot of people, I'm guilty of it myself, because you're trying to balance it, you're lifting this up on an angle, and you're trying to force it in that way by lifting it up and pushing it against it. And what happens is the cut at the blade is not 90 degrees anymore. So when you start actually building and putting your cabinets together, you can have, you know, an outer square cabinet carcass, and you're wondering why your joints are not lining up perfect, and that's because you're not making a 90-degree cut anymore. You're actually changing the angle of the cut because you're changing the angle of your material in relation to the blade, and this is going to prevent that from happening. I have seen a bunch of people on here, on YouTube, using this, and they actually, a lot of them say the same thing. They say, well, you know, this isn't great for when you're ripping some narrow stock. So let's say we were ripping a narrow piece, and you know, you really can't get your push stick in here because this is in the way. Look, as I'm pushing this piece through, I can't get my push stick in there because this arm is in the way. But you don't need this to do the narrow rips. Just get it up out of the way, store it right there on top of the rip fence. Keep this one engaged at the back, and then you can take your narrow stock and feed it through, and then that will ensure that you're staying true to the back while you hold it in place here. And then when you get here, you push it through, and now you have room to get it through the final cut without this interfering. You know, if they say that's impossible, it's not impossible. You don't need both of these engaged at the same time to make a narrow rip. Okay guys, so I got my table saw set up. I have the height set up on the Jessem stock guides. I have my material here. You can see it's 8 feet long. And I have my dust guard back up in place. I have my push stick here in case I should need it. And I'm ready to start this up and make this cut. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to set my fence to 100 millimeters, which is basically 4 inches. Roughly. Looking at 3/4 millimeter here, so I'm going to have the blade sit about 7/8 to 15/16 in height, enough to get a good cut out of this. I have a melamine blade on there, so it's nice and sharp, a lot of teeth. Going to make a nice clean cut. All right, let's get it going. I had no problem pushing the material through, and it looks perfectly straight, and it's a perfectly straight cut on both sides. And of course, it always helps when you have a straight line rip on this side, which I do because I use the track saw to straight line rip that. And so I know that starting with that edge, it's perfect. Now I need to cut another 100 millimeter or 4 inch piece, so I can just flip this over to the edge banding side here, and I can run it through once more. And you saw how now when I got to the end of the cut, I was able to get the push stick in there behind this front guide. So the roller guide really doesn't get in the way. And once you clear the back of the material, I can actually move this back a little bit further. Now you don't have to change the height on this because you're just sliding it a little bit further. And what it does, it'll help me to make sure that I'm actually clear of the blade, which I was on the first cut, but I like it to be a little bit further back. So here is something really cool that I didn't realize before that I can do by moving it back. Once I pass the blade, and I'm by the blade guard there at the back, the riving knife, once I finish the cut, this actually holds the material down to the table saw and the outfeed table, whereas before, when I had this positioned back a little further, the material passed it and it was ready to tip, which creates another danger when you're reaching for the material. But this is actually serving a second purpose for me. So now I can safely come around with the cut and slide it out, and I have no danger of reaching over that blade. And now I have two perfect 100 millimeter pieces that we can now get ready to cross cut to fit in between our cabinets. And if you were to take your ruler and check these out, position your finger to the end, and dead on right there at 100 millimeters. I'm going to check the center, 100 millimeters. I'm dead on at 100 millimeters, or 10 centimeters if you're looking at this. This is in centimeters, but 10 centimeters, 100 millimeters. I got to tell you, I'm very impressed, and could this be the best table saw jig of all time? In my opinion, this accessory for the table saw is a total must-have. I cut a lot of sheet goods, and this is definitely a game changer. Definitely make sure you hit that subscribe button because the next 2 videos are going to be completely awesome. I have a mantle build that's going to be distressed. We're going to install it and everything. And I'm going to be doing closet built-ins, custom closet built-ins. So check that out. Okay guys, so I want to thank you for joining me in the shop today. I hope this video helped you guys out. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Check the links in the description box below. Hit the picture of a notification bell. It's going to notify you every time I upload a new video. And I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. I'll see you next time.